Rae, and I'm back. Stream number 3, we're going to be talking about a very strange concept called the MacGuffin, which is as strange as it sounds. It's something that's quite boring in its own way, and it's actually something I don't like, and it's within the plot structuring of films mostly. I decided it'd be quite a good idea to try and learn its use within my novel, Newtown Ghosts, which is up for pre-order now. Thank you to all of you who have supported. I've got the lovely white vinyl has come in from 66 Productions, and that's the soundtrack which is created to sound like the music that would be coming from radios in the summer of 1976. Okay, so why have I chosen MacGuffins to talk about today? Well, MacGuffins, what are they? They're basically a device within the system of storytelling, which more often than not in the true MacGuffin actually means nothing. So it's not something that's ever achieved or arrived at, but it's a thematic item or thing that people have to get, and that drives all the characters. Now, to explain a little bit about my own sort of approach to that demand, I don't like that at all. For one, I can recall many times watching many films or even reading books, and you'd get to the end of them and you would not be given the MacGuffin's answer to the MacGuffin. They wouldn't get the MacGuffin. You wouldn't be described what it was, and you'd feel a bit robbed or, ripped off. So I sort of avoided it within my own writing, but then I sort of realized that I had to learn what was going on in order to improve what I'm doing. So I've got this this little graph type thing up here on the display, and it's called Freytag's Updated Pyramid. I mean, these things are ludicrously named, and really, you'd be better off watching someone say that it's just a graph that goes up and down. So when you start a story, you introduce everything, then you have a rising action after an incident, then final action and then resolution, okay? So I must admit I struggled with that because I like to freestyle with my writing. We were talking before about the neurodiverse method, and I think there's a lot of us who are gifted with neurodiversity, who can have very random and intriguing thoughts and then follow off in certain directions and then change. And it's often quite a wonder to those who don't have the same skills what on earth is going on in our heads. But you can imagine for a book writer or a screenwriter for film, they need to reward the watcher or the reader with what they would call like plot tokens. Now, even using this terminology is turning me off, because I see writing as a much more of a exposition of the interior psychological drives and understandings of ourselves as human beings. So anyway, I don't really stick to what that pyramid is saying, because I don't want to control my mind that much, okay? But MacGuffins in particular, here's one, okay? So Lord of the Rings, that's the MacGuffin, the ring. And obviously that works wonders. They're trying to get it. It's got some kind of power. Then Pulp Fiction had a suitcase, which was never described what was in it, but apparently it was an Easter egg connected to the Reservoir Dogs. And then, so yeah, I just put that in there. I'm not going to read that out, but let me tell you that story. So look, there's the Maltese Falcon, which is a MacGuffin in that book and that film. But there's quite an interesting description in that Twin Peaks issue there. I can remember watching Twin Peaks in the 1990s with my friends at the time, and had a girlfriend who was obsessed with it. I used to watch it, and I used to get really annoyed by it, to be honest with you, and that's because it never seemed to be really arriving anywhere. But the show was doing extremely well with the idea they were trying to find out who had murdered the lead lady in there, Laura, and they were forced. The show was getting massive viewing figures, and they were going along with this MacGuffin of who murdered her, and then I think the television company said, you've got to tell people who it is at the end of this series because we want a big cliffhanger, and so they did. And then from a screenwriting point of view, they then had to recreate a new MacGuffin for the new series. Which, if you think about it, that's kind of, you've lost the shine of why everyone was into it. So you can see the pros and cons of it. So in my case, the way I applied it was a Grentech Coyote skateboard. So if you see with the with the artwork we have here, there's a skateboard there. Okay, so my MacGuffin is not like an empty suitcase that you never find about or a Maltese Falcon. I wanted to make it something that was inherently threading within the story with wheels. The children want to be like American kids and ride skateboards, but then there's a genuine thread and theme of wheels because we've got wheelchairs in there, we've got chopper bikes, so it becomes threaded into an overall meaning. And I always remember there was a great sort of familial interest in the film Citizen Kane because of at the end of that movie, or it may have been the start, excuse me, the idea of Rosebud, which was the wooden sled that Citizen Kane called out. And a lot of people have pontificated about exactly what the meaning of that is. Well, we talked on the previous stream about Marcel Proust and his Madeleine, which triggered those great memories. I think in Citizen Kane, Rosebud is the memory of the joyful beauty of youth and how those memories that we have when we're young are so clean and pure that they're not affected by the experiences of adulthood. And it's about that spirit, really, which I think connects to my book, Newtown Ghosts, which is why I used the skateboard, because it's a simple thing that we can all connect with. However, when we think about it, anyone can get a skateboard for 10 quid nowadays, but when they first came out, they were like an impossible dream. And if you're lucky, you got one at Christmas, and more likely than not, they were like terrible devices, which bad trucks and like tarry black wheels that wouldn't turn around very well. So, I wanted to capture that as a MacGuffin. You got to get to the end of the book to get a skateboard. Are they going to get a skateboard? But there's a lot more going on than that. We've got the coal mines, which are underneath the new town. So I was going to talk to you about mirrors again. So, we had the law of thirds, where you have an introduction, then a second act and a third act with resolution. Well, I like to, in my writing, create lots of mirrors. Some of them are broken and some of them are facing each other in great amounts, so that if you have, for instance, the codfish, there's a cod war going on in the 1970s, and the children in the book, or the child in the book, the main character, is hearing about it, and that thread is mirrored throughout the book and is used as part of a MacGuffin endpoint. So there's multiple MacGuffins going on. And I think that's a better way to do it, where it actually does have a meaning, rather than, they all had to get to the black door, and then all the way through the book or the film, you never find out what the black door is, but it's driving the characters. And when you get to the end, you're not told, and you have like a sort of sinking feeling like, so we were chasing that idea for what? Well, so I didn't want to do it like that. I think every MacGuffin or every item in a book or a story should have a deep threaded thematic connection to what's happening emotionally with the characters. Otherwise, why create them? Is it not a little bit false? But like I say, the counter argument to that is that once the MacGuffin was resolved in Twin Peaks, it was no longer a show that had the same level of interest. So anyway, that was myself, Mark Rae, talking about Newtown Ghosts novels' connection to should you have a MacGuffin or not. Of course, I have multi-threaded. Big shout out to 66 Productions for the lovely white vinyl. And this book will be out on April the 11th. You can pre-order it now. And I think some of my pre-ordering crew, you'll be getting the book and vinyl early. So that's a big shout out to you for being early adopters. And I really appreciate the support. I'm very, very happy about this project's outcome. from an artistic point of view. And next Friday will be the second single. It's called The Seaburn Bat Lads, and I am rapping in a 70s aggressive teen child Geordie accent. The Seaburn Bat Lads are the gang in the novel who cause problems to the young boys. Okay, this is Mark Rae talking about Newtown Ghosts. You can see the front of the book there. It's a paperback at $9.99, which you get a free acoustic CD, and it's a vinyl album, which if you buy the vinyl, you get a free book. Okay, thank you so much for listening. This is Mark Rae tuning out on this lovely end to the week, and I'll catch you next week. Lots of love from me.